get the 2023 Clownfish comic books, including Crimson Ren Volume 1 and previously on Clownfish TV. We're offering a limited number of these books. In our second chance offer, go to shopclownfish.com. That's shopclownfish.com. Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon, and we are going to talk about the utter state of digital journalism. We're actually going to point you to clownfishtv.com. Yeah, we have a website. Nobody goes to the website, but we do have a website. We're going to point you to clownfishtv.com because Peter Pischke, who writes for us on occasion, landed an interview with the founder of Cinema Blend. And I guess he currently runs Giant Freaking Robot. And his insight into what is going on in the pop culture website space is very, very interesting. It's very interesting. He is basically saying that most of the corporate-owned entertainment sites are probably going to go bust by the middle of 2024. So, buckle up. We're going to talk a little bit about this interview. Peter interviewed Josh Tyler, who is the founder of Cinema Blend and Giant Freaking Robot. I did not know those sites were founded by the same person, to be honest. And thank you, Mr. Tyler, for taking the time to talk with one of our guys, for sure. So very eye-opening article. I'm not going to read the entire thing. I want you to go out to the website, and there's a lot there. I want you to read it for yourself, come to your own conclusions. But it is a very interesting picture he's painting of the landscape and where it's at. So before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. You will not get a woohoo because Geeky is not in this video. I think this kind of stuff bores her, to be honest. Now, we've been talking a lot about, and I know we clickbait the hell out of the thumbnails, but it's YouTube, you have to do that. But we've been talking a lot about how all these websites seem to be imploding. They're all imploding. They're laying off, especially in gaming journalism, laying off people in droves. They gutted comic book resources, editorial, because they did not want to use AI in any capacity to generate content. A lot of these websites, from my point of view, are basically corporate-owned playthings. They basically bought these websites thinking they were going to use them as marketing tools, for game companies or movie studios or whatever corporation owns them. And then when they're no longer useful, they toss them and the employees overboard, right? And we've seen a lot of these sites either get shut down, sold off multiple times, and a lot of times there's not a lot of warning. The journalists working at these sites are just like, yep, you're out of a job, or hey, we're cutting your rate, or hey, we only need one of you and we're going to replace the rest of you with AI. Now, a lot of these journalists do spend an inordinate amount of time on Twitter attacking YouTubers and other people that don't agree with their opinions. And I think it comes from a place of fear and envy, to be honest. I think these people know that they're being replaced by YouTube. They're being replaced by podcasters. And actually, Josh Tyler brings that up. He said, if you want to be a journalist going forward, you need to get good at being on camera because that's where everything is going right now. And he's not wrong. I mean, in terms of dollars, very little money comes from a blog these days. And he does talk about the ad rates. He said the ad rates are not as bad as some places are making it out. I personally think that these corporations are hand-wringing because they want to get rid of people, kind of like the same with the strikes. They're like, hey, we need to justify getting rid of all these people. So, oh God, guys, we barely could pay the rent this month. So, yep, y'all got to go. Y'all got to go. In reality, they were looking to just get rid of them and downsize because these sites aren't profitable, right? And we saw how Vice Media imploded and all of that. But he said the ad rates actually only dropped 40 to 50% from where they were last year. We've seen a steeper drop than that. And it's not because of traffic, but it could also be the ad network we're in. The ad network we're in is one that got sold recently. And I have my suspicions that they're not being, my personal opinion is they're not being very forthcoming with, the actual rates. The problem with having a third party run your ads like we do is that you basically have to trust that the numbers you're getting are accurate. trust us, bro. This is how much money you made this month. So there could be something else going on there too. And the company that we're working with, they actually had some Silicon Valley ties and all of that. But he's saying that the rates aren't as bad. Now, I will tell you that I am seeing a huge pivot to sponsorships and video advertising. Our video ads are great. They're fine. We haven't taken a hit on YouTube at all. I mean, if we did, it was very, very minor, but not compared to the blogs. The blogs, the banner ad rates are terrible right now. And it could also be because of ad blockers too. I mean, a lot more people are using ad blockers than they were before. Anyway, let's get into this article. I appreciate this guy. Now, I think I've roasted Giant Freaking Robot once or twice. And the only reason I did was because one of their reporters a couple of years ago was calling one of our guys a liar and tried to insinuate that our website, or one of our websites, I think it was Pirates and Princesses, was a haven for the alt-right or something. And Pirates and Princesses is a pretty objective theme park website. In fact, that writer is no longer with us anyway. But I was like, come on, dude, really? Really? But we've cited them before. They actually do get, I'll be honest, they do get rumors right more often than not. They really do. But yeah, so he started these sites back in the 2000s, early 2000s, and he did it himself. This is what I'm talking about. So this is the big difference between websites now and websites back then. Back then, these websites were started by fans. They were started by fans who were passionate about talking about the nerdy stuff that they love. They didn't look at like, hey, I'm going to make a lot of money doing this. It's like, no, I just really enjoy movies or comics or video games or whatever. And I want to share that passion with people. And, if we can make some money at it, hire some writers or whatever, that's fantastic. And then a lot of them got sold off to corporations. Corporations take a very different view. They're like, this is a marketing tool for us, and it would be really nice if the thing made us a ton of money too, on top of it. So he started it himself. He taught himself HTML and started a website, which became Cinema Blend. I can relate. I did the same thing with webcomics back in the day. He started out in the midst of the worst part of the dot-com bust. Ad rates have fallen 90% overnight. That is true. The big players surviving in the space, in spite of that, outside of IGN, were all independently owned. That is true. Most of those websites, again, they've been sold. Almost all of them have been sold. So when you bust on, comic book resources or whatever, just remember at one point in time, comic book resources was an independently owned site and it was solid, and now it's not. It's part of the Valnet machine. He says that the world of independent journalism outside of Giant Freaking Robot and a couple of other very small players, probably us, are largely devoid of independent outlets. That doesn't mean the players have changed. They're just no longer working for themselves. That's true. Given the people involved, it should be no surprise that the entertainment journalism world is a mess. It was always a mess. Now it's a mess funded by wealthy investment firms and run by big corporations, but nothing has changed. Yeah, you had a lot of people, you had a lot of broken people working in and around this industry. And I think, and that's, people working in like comics and in video games, and also, people covering comics and video games. And I think a lot of that, is just the industry itself tends to attract people that maybe don't fit in anywhere else. I think what we're seeing now on social media, with all the craziness on social media, is kind of the magnification of problems that have always been there. That's like, people are so shocked at, comic book pros acting the way they are on Twitter or whatever. I'm like, no, this is actually, these people have always kind of been like this. They just really haven't gotten out of their studios very much. They would go to conventions and they'd be like awkward at cons, or they would say weird stuff or whatever. It's just, it was never put on blast like it is now. Now everybody can let everybody else know what they're thinking 24/7, and sometimes it bites people in the ass. He sold off Giant Freaking Robot and Cinema Blend in 2015, and then he came back to Giant Freaking Robot. So he bought it back from the company he sold it to for a fraction of what they acquired it for. It's like leasing it. They'd done nothing with it. They hadn't even published any content. The site had been totally destroyed. No traffic, no web presence, nothing. It was dead. I was starting over from scratch. Yeah, I didn't care. It was just a marketing tool. It was a marketing tool for them. So he says about the ad rates, he said they're really only down 30 to 40% industry-wide. That's bad, but not what the hyperbole out there suggests. Not nearly as bad as the rate decline back in 2000. That is actually true. Now, I wasn't doing websites for profit back then, but I was actually working as a web developer, starting out as a web developer in the middle of the .com bust. And I went from making, I'll tell you what I made. This is like 99, 2000, somewhere in there. And I taught myself HTML and all that, kind of like this guy did. And I was getting about $10,000 for a couple of pages, on the internet. So I would build websites that were maybe like 5 pages, a couple of photos, and I could do it in a weekend, and I was getting like 10 grand. And then it just stopped. It just all stopped. Everybody's like, yep, we're not doing this internet thing anymore because it sounds like a waste of time. It was good money, though. It was really good money. I mean, geez, imagine being in your early 20s and being like, yeah, I'm just going to work a day or two, put this thing together, build this company for $10,000. And I was doing it back then. He said it should be noted that even though ad rates are down 40% from last year, they're still way up compared to where they were before 2015. That is true. They do have better targeting now than they had back then. They have video ads, etc. Now, we've only been doing Pirates and Princesses and Clownfish since 2015. So in our case, it's like, yeah, they're pretty bad. We did webcomics, and the webcomics rates were higher than what I'm seeing right now. But again, I think because the ad tech has come a long way, they filter out undesirable viewers or something. I don't know the real deal. I know that a lot of the ad tech networks will not even put their ads on webcomics because there was such a high incidence of click fraud or traffic that just wasn't desirable. You don't want a bunch of broke 20-year-olds. You're not going to market Lexus to them. The real reason companies like Vice and BuzzFeed are going out of business, and I expect a lot more very soon, is they no longer have any readers. They no longer have any readers because web traffic is now entirely controlled by a small handful of tech companies. Around September of 2022, those tech companies decided to stop sending traffic to news publishers. That does track. I have noticed that there are a handful of media outlets that get found in search results in like Google News compared to what there used to be. And they changed something in the algorithm, but anything that's not like in this like vetted network of publishers, gets bumped down. And when it comes to like Disney news or niche news, entertainment news, video game news, whatever, they will a lot of times promote, at least from what I've seen, like an NBC or somebody like that over, some independent sites. And it used to be that you'd get lucky and your blog would show up on, the top of the search results. Now it doesn't matter what you do. You're not showing up on the top of the search results. Facebook's the biggest one. They've cut off publishers entirely. They wanted people to publish through Facebook at one point. They're like, hey, come over to Facebook. We had what was it called? Lightning, or I forget what the hell it was called. But they're like, hey, yeah, publish your stuff here and you might get some ad revenue. You might get a little bit. But you got to keep all your articles here on Facebook. And people are like, nah, we're good. Many publishers got as much as 40 to 50% of their traffic from Facebook. That is true. That ended in late 2022. No one, and I mean no one, at least not if they're honest, gets Facebook traffic anymore. That is true. We have actually tried even boosting on Facebook, and it's really hit or miss. Like I'm like, are people even using Facebook anymore? Like, what the hell's going on here? Meta has tweaked their algorithm to make sure users never leave the Facebook app. The other 60% of traffic for nearly every other publisher came from Google. And now that's gone too. Look at any Google search result. A year or two ago, 80% of a Google results page would have contained a link to publishers. Now it's often not even 20. No, they want you on YouTube. Google wants you on YouTube. We get a pretty decent chunk of traffic on our YouTube channel, just organic Google searches. That's a bold statement. And Peter says, I can't help but agree with you. To push back a little from my observations, it seems that nerd news sites like GeoMedia, which owns Kotaku and Gizmodo, did this to themselves by inflicting some damage, relying on bad faith tactics like clickbait and trolling readers. There's no denying that things are a mess and only getting worse. I still remember when I first began noticing the shift. And he talks about a story with Clint Eastwood and how everybody kept running with this narrative that he was this horrible racist and he had this racist tirade. And it turned out that he said one thing in a press tour. It was like, I have a lot of black friends. That's it. And so everybody took that and they ran with it. And this is what happens with a lot of the outlets. And we see it now, and we talk about it now. They'll get one thing, wrong, and then everybody else repeats the wrong information. And he actually had to verify it, and they're the only ones, I guess, who didn't run the story. They had a 1,000-word story written about Clint Eastwood being racist, and they had to back up the claim that Clint Eastwood was saying he was friends with black folks, and they killed the story. We've actually run into that situation too. We've actually had writers that we have let go because, they were running with things that were not entirely accurate or things that were only true from a certain point of view. I mean, for all the accusations that Clownfish clickbaits, yeah, we clickbait our thumbnails. We do. We make fun of stories. We do. It's opinion. The Clownfish TV YouTube channel is an opinion, pop culture opinion channel. But we try not to run with bullshit on the websites. We try to be factual on the websites. And if everybody else jumps on the chuck wagon, everybody else chases the same ambulance, we actually try to avoid that, which is why you're not seeing 10,000 Bud Light videos from Clownfish TV, because they don't give a shit. And a lot of this stuff, in my opinion, yeah, you can comment on it once or twice, but a lot of it gets blown way the hell out of proportion. And again, if you read past the lead or watch the video past the thumbnail, and we're just playing the YouTube game, guys, just so you know, like, you got to play the YouTube game if you want to get found. But if you actually watch our videos, and sometimes we'll actually put thumbnails out there just to get people to look, people that hate us, because we know they're going to immediately jump to the wrong conclusion, not watch the video, and then go out to Twitter and start bitching about us, which actually gets people to watch our videos. Just so you know, that's how you play the game. But we do try to be honest. And we are the Clownfish TV YouTube channel is pop culture, news, views, and rants. And there are opinions. We disclaim it, even in the write-up on the videos. Not everybody's going to agree with us. Not everybody that works for us agrees with us. Geeky and I don't agree with each other sometimes on things. Sometimes she'll sit a video out just because she's like, I don't think it's worth talking about. And I'm like, no, I want to talk about it. Or vice versa. She'll be like, I want to talk about it. I'm like, I don't think it's worth talking about. I want to talk about it. I'm like, okay, you go talk about it. So anyway, he goes on to say, given the corruption and rot in a lot of the online publishing industry, it's probably too early to say if it's an entirely bad thing for consumers. Corruption and rot have always been there. It's not the reason Google is shutting the gates now. Unlike their competition, both Cinema Blend and Giant Freaking Robot are successful websites that drive solid traffic and regularly break important news. What sets these sites apart from others? I don't know. He says, I no longer have any connection with Cinema Blend, so I can't speak as to what they're doing over there. I think the foundation of what I built there remains. Most of the people currently in charge are people I hired and trained. Well, that's cool that they kept them, because usually what happens is a corporation comes in and guts these companies. I built Giant Freaking Robot the same way, with a focus solely on the things that truly matter. We avoid the bloat that plagues other companies. We stay lean, mean, and stripped down. So you don't have a $20,000 a month office in San Francisco. You don't have your Journos out there bragging about how they have a cherry blossom tree in their courtyard, or riding around on Segways, company Segways, and having a mental health spa day. My philosophy is content first. This is what's going to change about everything. After the dust settles in Hollywood, after the dust settles in digital journalism, this is what's going to change. It's basically content is king. It doesn't matter if you're making it out of a freaking trailer. You got to make good content. Content first means being writers first. My focus is on finding and hiring the right editors, the right writers, then giving them tools and freedom to do their jobs and say whatever they want to say about the topic they've been assigned to. If I can't find the right person, I work long hours to do the job myself rather than hiring the wrong person. Yeah, all it takes is one wrong person to destroy a site. And we've almost been there ourselves. We keep our staff simple and focused on writers, editors, and content. We don't waste time and money on support positions or perks or office space. We don't have complicated marketing departments or social media managers, even if we can afford them. They just get in our way. That's true. That's true. The more cooks you have in the kitchen, the more cooks you have in the kitchen, the harder it is. Now, this is interesting. Peter goes on to talk about Inside the Magic, which I do disagree on some level with Mr. Taylor's take on Inside the Magic. I have firsthand knowledge of that whole situation, and they are clickbaiting the shit out of their articles because people want to read bad news about Disney. And they've, I believe, lost their media access at Disney, so they don't give a shit if they piss them off. And that is what they're doing. They're basically just surviving at this point. They've let their YouTube channel go. They're just surviving. And I have a bit of a personal axe to grind with them, because their involvement with our former business partner is what I believe possibly led to our former partner taking the website and running with it and kicking me out, because I think she wanted to sell it to Inside the Magic. I think there were some conversations going on that I was not involved in, and whatever. I don't have a lot of respect for them, but that's my own personal issue. But then he goes on to get dig. He said, if you look into Inside the Magic and Fandom Wire, they will publish stories claiming Kathleen Kennedy is about to be fired from Lucasfilm any day now. And when you dig deeper, it's likely some YouTuber with no evidence, perhaps wearing a mask and costume. How does your team avoid making those kinds of mistakes? He goes on to talk about how they try to validate their content, and everybody makes mistakes. And that's true. Everybody does make mistakes. Every major media outlet makes mistakes. They have to do retractions. I used to work in an actual newsroom. I was an actual journalist in an actual newspaper. We did retractions every day, because you do what you can do, and sometimes you get it wrong. Sometimes more information comes out later. Sometimes your source turns out to be bunk, or they got the story wrong, or whatever. It doesn't mean you're intentionally lying. You're intentionally misleading people. But this is where it gets really interesting. He talks about YouTube and TikTok. He said, I expect most of the big corporate-owned sites to be out of business by mid-2024. A lot will be gone before the end of the year. We've been covering this. Barring some radical course reversal by Google, there is no path forward for them. Most of the smaller independent sites will be gone too. They were already barely holding on, and now they're going to be totally removed from the internet. I've talked privately to the CEOs of a lot of those companies, big and small, and they're all shuffling the deck chairs on the Titanic. They're going under. They all know it, and they don't see any way out of it. A few, the more proactive ones, are making business plans to pivot their companies to entirely different businesses. No one sees any future in online publishing. I'm going to blow that one up. No one sees any future in online publishing. The only sites which don't seem to be floundering are the ones owned by Valnet. And it's interesting because Valnet wants to rely more on AI, and Valnet's getting backlash for cutting loose its editors that were not on board with AI, probably trying to survive. Like, we know we need to generate 120 articles a day, and we don't have the money to pay people to do it, and you people don't want to write about the things that people want to read about, so we're going to have to replace you with robots. Valnet's sucking up the internet traffic being taken away from other sites like a vacuum and getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and everyone else is shrinking. They still show up at the top of the search results. I'm not sure what their secret sauce is, but they seem to be the only ones who have it, and it's working for them. Outside of Valnet, anyone else who wants a future will have to get lean. Publishers must find ways to run their businesses without corporate bloat. Most of them do not have the ability to do that, so most will go under. It's not a question of will they, it's only a question of when. When. The future of entertainment journalism is smaller outlets with a smaller staff and a more clear focus. Yeah, we're fine. I mean, we do okay. We pay for ourselves, and that's more than a lot of other people can say. And what we don't pay for with advertising, we can offset with YouTube, because like I said, the video rates are still fine, right? But we have a skeleton crew. Sites that can survive long enough to pick up whatever small amount of traffic is let after those big sites go out of business will find enough left to keep going. He said his aim is to be the last site standing. I think there's a pretty good chance they will be. Yeah, because everything is just changing. Everything is blowing up. So most of these video game journalists, most of these big talking activist journos on Twitter are going to have to find another job, because most of the websites they work for are going to go under. And they don't like the ones that will apparently stay in business because they either have journalistic integrity or they don't pay enough or whatever the deal is. But the days of making six figures, writing hit pieces on fandoms are over. It's over. You guys are going to have to find something else. Now, I'd tell you I'll learn to code, but it doesn't matter because AI can code now too, right? Is this an AI picture? This might be an AI picture. I don't know. Anyway, we're going to wrap this up. I thought it was very interesting. I really do appreciate Mr. Tyler's input, Josh Tyler's input, for sure. I mean, this guy's been doing this longer than I have. But yeah, he's saying it's over, man. It's basically over. So that's really interesting. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. We'll talk later. Help support the channel. Go to thereef.support and get early access to podcasts, videos, and other content. That's thereef.support.